The farmer of fading fields. There once was a peculiar farmer who lived by a strange philosophy. He believed that relationships, like plants, were simply things to be managed for his own yield. Some plants work and some do not, he would declare with a dismissive wave of his hand. He cultivated only what he deemed good, meaning whatever brought him immediate sunshine, required little true effort, and provided him with the brightest bloom, the sweetest fruit for himself. Anything that showed a hint of struggle, a need for deep watering, or a slight imperfection, he saw as bad. Without a second thought, he would pull it from his carefully tended rows and toss it aside, beyond the borders of his fenced-in fields, into what he called the wasted lands. His farm, for a time, looked impressive. The plants he chose were vibrant, heavily fertilized with his charm and watered with his fleeting attention. He would admire their outward growth, boast of his green thumb, and preen over the immediate harvest. He saw himself as a wise steward, maximizing his gains. But as the seasons turned, a subtle desolation crept into the farmer's land. The plants he kept, though outwardly thriving for a spell, grew increasingly dependent on his shallow feeding. They never developed deep roots, because they were never challenged to weather storms, nor were they given the rich, complex soil that true connection provides. When a plant no longer produced the exact fruit he desired, or when it needed too much water, or required him to actually bend down and tend to its complex needs, he would snap its stem and cast it out. "Not working," he'd mutter, without a flicker of remorse. Meanwhile, in the wasted lands beyond his fences, something miraculous began to happen. The discarded plants, once flung aside, bruised, and seemingly broken, slowly started to heal. They were no longer under the farmer's controlling gaze, no longer forced to grow in his shallow rows. Their roots, though initially fragile, began to tentatively explore the wild, unkempt earth. They found nourishment in the natural rainfall, drew strength from the unfiltered sun, and discovered other discarded plants nearby. What the farmer had seen as bad, the deep roots, the struggle, the need for genuine connection, were actually the very qualities that allowed life to flourish outside his restrictive care. The individual plants, once isolated in their pain, began to intertwine their roots, sharing resources, creating shelter for one another. What had been a barren, wasted land slowly transformed. Years passed. The farmer's perfectly organized fields, so dependent on his superficial management, grew increasingly barren. The soil became depleted, the remaining plants brittle and unable to sustain themselves once his fleeting attention moved elsewhere. The carefully tended rows turned to dust, a desolate testament to a life built on utility and discard. His farm became a desert, reflecting the emptiness within his own heart. He was left with nothing but what he had carefully curated and ultimately discarded. But beyond his withered fences, a vibrant, verdant, fruitful forest now thrived. The discarded plants had become strong trees, their branches intertwined, their roots reaching deep into the earth, nurturing a vast and diverse ecosystem. Rivers of life-giving water, fed by unseen springs of resilience and shared compassion, flowed freely through it, nourishing everything in their path. It was a place of true growth, mutual support, and abundant life, untouched by the farmer's controlling hand. And the farmer, standing alone amidst his barren dust, occasionally glimpsed the distant, flourishing forest, a testament to the vibrant life he had dismissed as unworthy, now thriving in a richness he would never know.
Always doing the best, Just doing the best to get by. I don't know if I can find this for my voice. I think I would do this one for the groundhog.